Welcome back to Trib Preps. I'm Eric Lee alongside Todd Sommerfeld, and we're here to break down Week 5 of high school football in Wisconsin. We'll just run through the scores real quick, and then we'll dive into some of the action from tonight. West Salem over Aquinas 22-6. Onalaska beats Adams Friendship 50-16. Toma beats Prairie du Chien 21-14. Viroqua gets its first win of the season over Altoona 25-8. Melrose Minduro 10, Pepin Alma 0, Blair Taylor 24, CFC 14.
Unbeaten Wildcats.
Yeah, 4-0. And DeSoto playing Hillsborough again this week, 16-0.
Unbeaten Pirates.
Yeah.
We have unbeaten teams left.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we saw an unbeaten season go down.
Right.
Tonight, so.
Right, and that was the game that we were at. We were both at West Salem Aquinas tonight. And probably maybe a little bit more defense than some people might have been thinking. I think even talking with Yane afterward, he was concerned that it could get to be a high-scoring game.
Yes.
And
well, you said they were averaging how many points?
They were averaging 43.3 points per game going into this.
And West Salem held them to 6. And
yeah.
That 6 came on a fourth down pass, albeit early in the game. And kept the game tight after West Salem opened with a safety and touchdown. Kept Aquinas in the game. But yeah, West Salem's defense, I thought, really made the difference. And that was kind of the story in this one. In addition to Luke Knoll, sophomore running back for West Salem, had a great game. And, not to minimize what the West Salem offensive line did in the second half of this game, especially the fourth quarter. They owned the fourth quarter. I thought the pressure that West Salem was able to get on Jackson Flotmeyer was the difference in this one. It allowed the secondary to just kind of go out there and play free. They got a couple interceptions off of that.
Right.
Jack Haley and Zach Niemeyer each got one. Niemeyer with a great knockdown at the goal line on a key play in the third quarter too, when Aquinas was still in it. I just think that defensive line and the linebackers really kind of set the tone in this one and really put the West Salem defense at ease out there against a really dangerous offense.
Yeah, and I mean that's what you wrote your column about, essentially, was the defensive performance and pretty much centered around that pressure of Flotmeyer. What were some of the players kind of telling you about that? I mean, was it the game plan going in, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, they knew that was something they were going to have to do. I think they all understand how good Flotmeyer is and is going to be. And you could see it on some of the throws that he made tonight. He had a great one to Clint Muskowski early in the game.
Right.
Or second quarter, I think it was. And that was 48 yards. That was half the yards he passed for in the whole game. So he got the one big completion. There was a penalty that gave, pass interference that gave Aquinas a big gain there. But other than that, I mean, I really gained an admiration for Calvin Hargrove tonight and the way he moved the ball for Aquinas. I mean, the guy's not very big, and he was he was moving piles, he was making tackles. That kid was doing everything out there for Aquinas, and it seemed like that was going to be able to keep them in the game. He wasn't busting off huge runs. He had one really nice run, I think it ended with a face mask too on top of it.
Right.
But it was kind of for moderate gains, but it kept the ball in their possession, and I thought he did a really good job on both sides of the ball tonight. I was really impressed with what he was able to do. But the way that West Salem was able to take Flotmeyer out of his game and make him constantly be looking for someone else to throw the ball to, and chasing him out of the pocket, making him move to try and find someone. That's harder to find someone when you're moving around. Obviously, you just sit in the pocket for 5 seconds. You can go through your reads and figure out where to go with the ball. But as soon as you get him going one way, it really limits what he can do.
Right.
No matter how good you are. And I certainly expect to see Flotmeyer get better with that as things go. But I mean, he's still a new starter, and if West Salem can, as Tom Lee said, take him off his mark, it gives you a much better chance to win.
Yeah, and I think it helped too. I mean, we talk about the defense playing such a huge role in limiting Aquinas' ability on offense. I mean, West Salem's offense arguably did just as much, especially late in the second half. Because the first
was incredible.
Yeah, the first half, West Salem really, especially late first half, kind of struggled to move the ball at all.
Right.
And you had to go into half thinking, okay, West Salem's currently winning this game as far as the scoreboard says, but Aquinas has blown a number of chances.
Yes, they moved the ball early and got on the West Salem side of the field and just couldn't do anything with it.
Right, and then West Salem wasn't doing all to the extent that it could capitalize. You know, it wasn't capitalizing to the fullest extent of that.
Yes.
And you had to wonder how the second half was going to go. And West Salem's offense and the offensive line and Luke Knoll really turned it on.
Yes.
Knoll finished with 149 yards and all 3 of their touchdowns on 24 carries and 60% of their total output on offense. And I think, too, like, we talk about Flottmeyer throwing those interceptions, but Aquinas didn't have the ball for very long in the second half.
How many snaps did they take in the fourth quarter? One?
I think they took one fourth quarter snap, and it was a Flottmeyer pick.
Yes. And that was one he needed to try and make something happen. Right. So he did down the field. I think the first interception, Jack Haley made a great read on the ball.
Yep.
And he had a beat on that ball as soon as it came out of Flottmeyer's hand. I think the one that Niemeyer got was just Flottmeyer trying to make something happen and go down the field because they weren't getting anything.
Right.
When they had the ball the previous time.
And he absolutely had to try at that point because West Salem had just ate up nearly 8 minutes of the clock and scored to make it 22-6. Like, you're down by 2 possessions, you've got to make something happen there.
Yep. And so
you can't fault him.
No, not at all. And Niemeyer was there to make the play, and that's kind of what West Salem did. I won't say all night, but especially in the second half, was they made the play. Yeah, it's hard to think of. They converted a couple of fourth downs on that last touchdown drive that they had. It's hard to go through and pick out something that they didn't do well, especially in that.
They had a few
half,
penalties that were kind of The face. You mentioned the face mask. There's a pass
that was
interference.
early though. The pass interference was early. If you look at the second half, try and come up with something they didn't do well.
Yeah, I'm nitpicking here.
Yeah, I know, but it was a really good second half, kind of all around for West Salem tonight. That's
absolutely. Onalaska bounced back in a big way tonight. Especially Albert Romero, 177 yards and 4 touchdowns on 26 carries. That's a big night.
He had their first 3 touchdowns.
He did.
And scored a later one.
The Hilltoppers finished with 374 on the ground on 49 carries. So they were just pounding the rock tonight while the defense held Adams Friendship to just 131. I think that's the all-around kind of performance that, they're going to need to kind of bounce back from those tough losses. I mean, obviously not back-to-back losses that they had to Edgar and St. Croix Central, but still tough losses nonetheless. And when you get a complete performance like this, I think that's a huge confidence booster. It's got to be.
Yes, and they need something like that,
right?
Because it is a tough loss, and if you're especially with the one they're coming off of St. Croix Central, being losing it in the last minute, to be able to come back and do that, and you got a Menominee game coming up. Onalaska went out and gave itself a pretty good schedule. For a season where they could do that and not have your normal teams lined up. I think they did a really good job of finding different ways to challenge their team. And a season like this, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Right.
But you get that experience to go out and do it. And these kids are saying they're playing teams that not many previous Onalaska players, played against.
Right.
This was a one-sided game, and they're a better football program than Adams Friendship. Certainly not a football powerhouse, but to go there and do what you set out to do and win it in that manner, it has to make you feel good.
Right. Toma, we talk about them bouncing back, getting that win over Reedsburg, and now they bounce back again. You're right. Beating Prairie du Chien, and again, it's kind of not last second here in this case, but it's a late fourth quarter touchdown from Justin Gerke. He threw for 3 touchdown passes tonight, so that's all of Toma's scoring there. So I think that's also good to see the Timberwolves showing this fight too, because it could be so easy. You lose your opener to Onalaska, then you bounce back, but then you lose again to just almost fold it to some extent, but. Obviously, definitely, that's not what they're about.
Yeah, and who caught that touchdown pass to win the game there?
Drew Brookman.
Good player. He was impressive against West Salem last week. Gerke has weapons there. Toma has some good big receivers. And it all comes down to, situation and accuracy. He's been a little inconsistent, but on nights like this, you see what he's really capable of. And I think if you go back and look, and we've talked about this before, of things kind of being up and down with Gerke. Obviously, the good outweighs the bad, and tonight's one of those games where you really saw him make a big play when the team needed it.
Yeah, and a good night for Brookman too. He has 6 catches for 93 yards to go along with that touchdown. So
yeah, good player.
they must be kind of developing that chemistry that you just kind of need that time. So looking good for the Timberwolves, and we talked about Blair Taylor. They're now 4-0 with a nice win over CFC, and perhaps the most stunning stat from this is that the Pirates had 0 rushing yards on 24 attempts. They did move the ball through the air 170 yards, but 0 rushing yards. That's impressive.
The Wildcats are physical, apparently.
Yeah.
I haven't seen them play, but we had Chris Calloway out at the game tonight and gave us the full game story that's on lacrosstribune.com if you want to read it and see how the Wildcats are 4-0. But I know Coach Naring was, I don't want to say concerned. His team was 3-0, but going to CFC is a tough place to go and win. Has been traditionally for Blair Taylor to go and do, and a lot of teams to go do in football. But they went over and did it in, I guess, grand fashion, especially with the way that run defense played.
Right. Other notables: Viroqua snapping a 9-game losing streak to get their first win of the year. It's always nice to see.
Big running back had a big game now.
Yeah, Nick Schneider. Nick Schneider ran for 178 yards and a touchdown on 26 carries. Quarterback Eric Garrity threw for 2 scores as well. So good things for the Blackhawks. Yes. A lot of good things happening for local teams this week.
Yes. DeSoto gets a shutout here too, beating Hillsborough again.
Yep. Mel Min's 3-1. So things are looking good for our area teams, and next week should be more of the same. We've got Aquinas on Alaska next week.
That's for sure. A lot of good games coming up. West Salem's still looking for a game.
Right.
They right now have no opponent for next week and would love to have one, I'm sure, especially the way they played the last 2 weeks.
Right.
They want to fill every week they can anyways, but they got a little momentum going here. So I'm sure they're going to want to find somebody sometime this week, and Coach Yanes said there were some possibilities, so hopefully we'll see West Salem playing again next week too.
Yeah, and that'll wrap it up for us. We'll be back here again next week, but in the meantime, you can check out all of our videos on our YouTube channel. It's Lacrosse Tribune. Super simple. That's all it is. Just go to YouTube, search Lacrosse Tribune. You'll find us. You can subscribe. But all of this stuff will be on our website as well at lacrosstribune.com. That's game stories, that's video highlights, that's videos like these. It's probably the easiest place to go to find all of our content is lacrosstribune.com.
But thanks for being with us, and we'll see you again next week.